De'Aaron Fox.
It was just fancy. It was saucy. That's what they would call it. The move, he didn't shake Steph, but the move was real saucy.
The advanced stats are going to say.
A long, noisy out is what that was.
The advanced stats are going to say, nope, not a good play. But we all know the talent shown there, high ceiling for that young point guard.
Yeah, the ceiling is definitely high for De'Aaron Fox. And it's just because you look at this year, he is shooting the three-point shot a lot better than he did last year. I think last year he was around a 30% three-point shooter. This year he's up to 38, 39%. And what that does is it stretches the defense out. And in pick and roll, you have to guard him so much differently now. You can't go under. You can't confidently switch because he's able to take advantage of those mismatches. He is a next-level athlete when we talk about speed, quickness, and explosion. And if you put the average big on him, he's going to go by them very, very quickly. And if you give him the three-point shot, he's now knocking it down with confidence. Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, watch out. This backcourt in maybe 2 to 3 years might be considered one of the best in the league.
And you sprinkle in Bogdanovic, his ability to make big plays. This is a league pass must-watch every night, this team.
I love watching Sac on League Pass.
So you mentioned those two guys because De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield, they're very good, going to be, the ceiling is there, right? But Bogdanovic and Bjelica, those two guys are playing at a level to make them competitive now. How important what do they bring to the table? Is it just the outside shooting? Is it defense? What is it that they're doing that makes this team competitive on a night-in, night-out basis?
Well, Bjelica's playing so well, you almost can't blame him now for walking away from his commitment to Philadelphia. There in the beginning didn't look very good. And he has played at such a high level, and you said this earlier, it's kept Bagley off the floor to a huge degree because he can fill in so many of the gaps for that team. What Bogdan does that I think is really critical is he's just a stone-cold winner. And every team that's going to be good in this league needs to have an elite star-type role player. And Bogdan's a little bit more than a role player, but what he is clutch. And when you need him to make a big play at a big moment, that's what he tends to do. It's what he did at Fenerbahce, and it's what he continues to do at Golden One Center.
Hey, if you don't believe that, hey, ask the Lakers. That shot he hit on Tyson Chandler last week for the buzzer beater in Sacramento was huge.
So when we look at the Golden State Warriors, it's another night, and the box score is Kevin Durant with 13 points, Klay Thompson with 17, Steph Curry with 16, and they're in a dogfight with 70 points at the half, but only up by 1. Defensively, this team needs to find their rhythm to be able to shut teams down, right? That seems to be the problem, the difference past seasons in this year.
Well, I think it's twofold. I think the defense is one, their lack of rim protection. And I also think the fact that Klay Thompson has not been Klay Thompson and what we've come to expect from him, their margin for error is smaller. So they're not out shooting the lack of defense. And I think that team was so good shooting the ball for so long that they really almost shot out your heart a little bit. They took your legs out from under you because they would make big contested three after big contested three, and you would lose a little bit of your momentum and your faith. Now they can't blitzkrieg you in that same way. It's keeping teams in the game longer, and as they attack the rim, they're starting to feel more and more confident against this Warriors team.
When I look at this Golden State team, it just looks like there's a little bit of a chink in the armor just throughout this whole organization. When I'm just talking about, when you talk about up front, of course, they needed more help at the 5. With Jones being hurt, JaVale McGee going to the Lakers, they feel that. They don't have that dynamic roller. Then you look at the fact that guys like Draymond Green isn't playing well offensively. Klay Thompson isn't playing up to the level that he set offensively as a shooter. And then you have some of these little rifts, the rifts between Draymond and KD. I even still think there's maybe not a rift, but just a difference in philosophy between Kevin Durant and Steve Kerr. If you look at some of the comments that they've had in the media since November, I just really think that this team as a whole is just not where it needs to be. I think it's going to get there, and they have the most talent. But Golden State, this is probably the most vulnerable they've been.
Well, if you look at the Chicago juggernaut they had, the 6 championships, and it fell apart from within. Eventually, it just couldn't stay together long enough. And I think this is very much an interesting situation for them because they also have the potential for that. They are so good. The greatest threat to this Warriors team comes from within.
Plus, those Chicago teams, third year of a three-peat is always the hardest year. If you look at their regular seasons, those were the least amount of wins those teams always had.
Great point.
So when you scored 40 points in 5 consecutive games, is scoring 40 in a 6th consecutive game the hardest thing? Because
An Express Halftime Report is brought to you by American Express, the official card of the NBA.
Giannis and the Bucks trying to make the Raptors fear the deer. Ahead 2-0 in this series this year. But it's just a one-point game at the break. In the first game between these two teams this season, Giannis Kawhi did not play. Second game, both kind of held under the wraps with Kawhi scoring 20, Giannis scoring 18. And in the first half tonight, Giannis with 18, Kawhi with 17. This is what we've been waiting for, these two star players scoring a lot and being effective.
Well, this is definitely what you want. When you have two great players like this, you want to see them put their talents on display. You want it to be a game where both of them shine. And that's what we're getting in the first half. Giannis is playing well, Kawhi's playing well, and it's a treat. And it's one of those things that you love to see. Here you have Greek Freak ISO'd one-on-one against Siakam. One-on-one, there's nothing really he can do. Siakam is long and athletic, but the Greek Freak has too much space, too much room down here. Then you see right here, getting out in transition, running, taking his time, and you know he's going to finish strong and finish right at the rim. And now he's showing the diversity in this game because now he's leading the fast break. He sees the lane, attacks that rim. So what I like about these highlights is we're seeing Giannis all over the court doing different things. Right here, this is just a grown man rebound, bully ball right after the dunk, bouncing up. And now you see him initiating the screen, goes straight to the left, gets back to that right hand. Giannis can do it all. He can finish on the break, he can lead the break, he can rebound. And the best thing about him is when he sees an area and he sees space, he attacks it immediately.
And those clips are a really good example of it, but Giannis is the one who's benefiting the most. It's been an assault at the rim for Milwaukee in this first half. 28 points in the paint. They're getting right to the cup. That offensive rebound and putback, there's nobody in the lane 6'10 or bigger. They've taken advantage of the fact that Toronto is playing smaller in the absence of Jonas a little bit here.
When you look at the rebounding numbers, Giannis is out rebounding Toronto's front line 9-7. Is that something we overlook with his game because we're always talking about the three-point shot or whether or not he's scoring in the paint? But rebounding, at times, he's been dominant. This seems like one of those games with 9 rebounds in the first half. Yeah,
he can be dominant as a rebounder. He's also dominant as a playmaker. I mean, it's what makes him so special. He can literally, every time he steps on the floor, offer the potential for a triple-double, and you can feed off of him if he's not scoring. And one of the big reasons for it is because he's got the ability to grab those rebounds we saw in traffic. He rebounds out of his area. He's not a guy who's a space rebounder. He's just going to be bigger than you, longer than you, and go get one.
And that is a great part of his aspect of his game is because we talk about a lot of guys that are two-way players. He's a three-way player. He can score the basketball, he can defend, and then he can be a monster on the glass. He averages 13 rebounds a game. There's a lot of centers in this league playing 30 minutes or more that don't get that many rebounds. So it just tells you how diverse his game is, how many different ways he can help you win. And that's what winning is all about when we start talking about positionless basketball. When you have a guy that you can say, hey, he might can get you 40 or 50 on a given night, but if he's not scoring, he can help you defensively. Oh, and if he's not doing it defensively, he might get you 17, 18, 20 rebounds. That's what you're looking for in a star player.
So much focus on Kawhi, so much focus on Giannis. Kyle Lowry not in this game, one of your assist leaders in the NBA this year. Fred VanVleet stepping up. Great for the Raptors in the first half, but we saw him down towards the end of the half with an injury. 3 for 3 from outside. If he's not back in the second half or is not fully effective, what do the Raptors do?
Well, they'll probably lean on DeLon Wright, and DeLon Wright's a fine young player in this league, but that's a step down from VanVleet, who I think is probably the best backup point guard in this league, and DeLon is not a natural point guard. He has talent, he has size, he has ability with the ball, but I think Toronto offensively takes a step back if they don't have VanVleet, and on top of that, they already don't have Kyle Lowry, so being down to your third-string point guard normally hurts the offense, and it puts a lot of pressure on guys like Kawhi to try to do even more.
And it really changes the dynamic here because they don't have Kyle. Their closing lineup very often is both Kyle and VanVleet. Yeah. So it's not just that they're going to rely on DeLon, it's that they can't put their best closing lineup on the floor at all.
That's a great point, Griffin. We'll look for that in the closeout of this game to see what lineup they do end up going with. Kawhi Leonard bouncing back after that loss to the Spurs last night. And the Raptors pull it out over the Bucks. Nikola Jokic had himself a game. 39 points, a season high for him. And that's not the best part of his game, Griffin. It's the passing. It's the ability to rebound. the extra shot. I mean, just an impressive overall performance for the Nuggets big man.
One of the plays they showed there was a big-to-big Jokic dropping it down to Miles Plumlee. Because Jokic is their primary playmaker and they don't need to keep a point guard on the floor, they've been able to play big-to-big a lot this year. They can play an enormous lineup out there with Paul Millsap on the court, with Juancho Hernangomez, with Jokic, with Torrey Craig. They've kept a lot of size on the court, so at the end of games, they tend to overwhelm some teams on the defensive side, and they have absolutely picked up what Coach Malone is trying to do.
You said overwhelmed. How about this is an underwhelming ending? Jazz head by 3 final seconds.
What was that?
Reggie Jackson throws the interception.
And Blake is overwhelmingly disappointed.
So is Dwayne Casey.
Wait a minute, how many points were they down?
3.
Okay.
About 10 seconds to go.
Interesting situation.
Blake Griffin, 34 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Andre Drummond, 15 points, 18 rebounds. And of course, Blake Griffin did not have the ball in his hands, and he's a point forward. That's the guy you want bringing the ball up the court there, right, Griffin?
It is, and again, it's another example of how badly they miss Ish Smith. They are absolutely not the same team in any way when Ish is not available to them.
That's extreme talent.
How do you learn how to balance a grill on your mouth?
Hard.
Time to double up on the dinosaurs. Sunday, right here on NBA TV, Toronto Raptors, Indiana Pacers. Game starts at 7:30, but make sure you tune in before that 7 o'clock for the Auto Trader pregame show. And of course, the dinosaurs playing right now against the Milwaukee Bucks. They're just at the half. 1-point game with Milwaukee on top. And we're just going to circle at points in the paint there, Griff. Okay, because Raptors playing good defense in the paint, but still not able to stop what's happening.
Yeah, and if Milwaukee had not uncharacteristically given away 10 turnovers in that half, they've been so good in terms of ball control. They've been really good in limiting opponents' fast break opportunities, and neither one of those were particularly good in the first half, and they're still in the position they're in. I think this sets up rather well for Milwaukee moving forward, particularly if Van Vliet can't come back.
Yeah, for me, depending on who wins the second half, a lot of it's going to be determined by Van Vliet's health and availability.